It's Charles Barkley with Wayfair. It's outdoor season, and my patio setup better be ready to play. That's where Wayfair wins. Patio seating, umbrellas, and grills, all delivered fast and easy. Shop wayfair.ca now.
Wayfair, every style, every home.
Thanks for listening to the Elias Macko Show on CJAD 800. It's 10:22. It was, without question, one of the biggest stories of this year. The U.S. Supreme Court overturning Roe v. Wade in June, a decision that has drastically changed the landscape of abortion access throughout the United States. Many women now find themselves in impossible positions where they must keep a child they were not prepared for, or find a way to get an abortion, sometimes dangerously. Elevated Access is a nonprofit organization that is connecting people seeking abortion care with pilots who will anonymously transport them to access the care they need. We're joined on the line now by Fiona. We're omitting her last name for security reasons. She is the Director of Kindness at Elevated Access. Fiona, welcome to the show.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Why don't you tell our listeners here, we're in Canada, and especially in a province like Quebec where we have access to family care and abortion access, and, we sometimes cannot grasp the differences that are going on across the border here. Why don't you tell me the situation that certain women are facing depending on the state they're in the U.S.?
Yes, indeed. So let me provide the context of what's happening in the U.S. And actually, it precedes the Supreme Court decision when abortion was made legal at the federal level back in 1973. Subsequent to that, states were allowed to put in their own rules to try to restrict access to abortion. And one of the things they would do is put in very restrictive rules for abortion clinics to comply with, making it near impossible for that clinic to operate. So especially over the last 10 or 15 years, access has been restricted quite severely in many southern states like Louisiana, Mississippi, Georgia, Alabama, South Carolina, some Midwest states like Kentucky and Tennessee. And so when the Supreme Court decision happened in June, it was sort of the last straw for those states. And then obviously it has affected access in every state to some level. So what's happening now, Elias, is there is a 3-week waiting period for anybody trying to get an abortion in the U.S. because there's too few abortion appointments for those seeking abortion. So in general, we have a nationwide problem.
And tell me about what some women are facing here on just how far it is to access the nearest legal abortion clinic in a neighboring state or maybe a few states over. What kind of hurdles are some women facing right now?
Well, the hurdles are vast. So let's start with an example. So you live in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, which is in the South in the U.S. And you might face many different issues in your personal life. You most likely have children of your own already, so you would need to get child care if you're going to undertake a multi-day road trip to get from Louisiana to, say, Virginia. So you've got child care to worry about. You have a job, so you need to ask your employer to let you off from work for 3-4 days. You have a car, or you may not have a car, but even if you do have a car, it's not the kind of car that you want to go 1,200 miles in. You may never have flown before. We actually have people who've flown with us who have never been on any kind of flight, a commercial flight or private flight. And so as you can see, the obstacles to getting an abortion when you're in a state that's many, many states over from the nearest state that will offer you care are vast. And so, as you pointed out at the beginning of the show, we're starting to see people who are being forced to carry babies, which in and of itself is a tragedy for the mother and the existing family and children. But of course, being an unwanted child when that child is born is, even more tragic.
We're with Fiona. She is Director of Kindness at Elevated Access organization in the U.S., trying to help people get access to abortion care. So, Fiona, one of the things I've noticed here, you need to keep people's identities private, secret. There's a whole bunch of reasons for that. Why don't you get into that aspect of these things and how Elevated Access gives people the privacy that they need for all types of reasons?
Great question. So, if you think about the situation for anyone undergoing this kind of health care, it's a private moment. It's an intimate moment. It's something you might share with your partner or your mother or your sister, but it's not something you want to share with, everybody. Sadly, we're in the situation now where more people have to be involved in private healthcare decisions. And what we're also seeing on top of that in states like Texas and Oklahoma and Alabama, they're criminalizing abortion. And so both the person who's getting care could have a lawsuit against them because abortion is illegal in that state. But they also are going after people who are assisting that person. So it could be your grandmother. Your grandmother drives you from Texas to New Mexico, and your grandmother is now an accessory to a crime. And equally, those of us who are trying to help, whether we are, Uber drivers or pilots or anyone trying to help, the laws have been put into place where they're trying to turn citizens into vigilantes, where private citizens can also sue folks that are perceived to have been accessories to a crime. Now, let me say, none of these laws have been tested in a court of law. The primary purpose is to sow fear, uncertainty, and doubt, and make it very confusing and very scary for anyone who's looking for either abortion care or, by the way, gender-affirming care, which we do as well. So, yes, it's a very scary time for people who are looking for this kind of health care.
So, Fiona, with all that in mind, I have to ask you, what you're risking here, what the pilots are risking here. Why are you doing it?
It's the right thing to do. That's really the reason. But I'll get a little deeper into it. So we have 900 pilots who have applied to be with Elevated Access. We are only 6 months old, so it's been this incredible outpouring of support from the pilot community, and then another couple of hundred volunteers like myself who are not pilots who are also assisting. And some of those pilots are actually military pilots. They are active duty pilots. They are in the Air Force or the Army or somewhere else. And the way they describe it to me is that they are fighting for our country in, far-flung countries. They're trying to preserve democracy and the freedoms that Americans enjoy. And now they are fighting to preserve those same things in this country. So they view it as a patriotic duty to try to do everything they can to help fellow Americans have the same rights that, frankly, those pilots do and maybe their spouses do not.
I thought, Fiona, you would say that it's difficult finding pilots. That's what I thought you were going to say. And for you to tell me it's the opposite here, that you've got 900 pilots, I think it speaks volumes. Fiona, let's just end on this. Let me ask you your opinion here. There's midterms coming up in the U.S. in under a month. How important are the midterms in your opinion?
The midterms are absolutely critical. This is an issue of human rights. This is an issue of just everybody should have the right to make private healthcare decisions. And we've got candidates who are running on extreme platforms where they want to make abortion illegal with no exceptions for the mother's life, for rape, for incest, for anything. So these folks should not be representatives of our citizenry. And by the way, the vast majority of Americans support some form of access to abortion. So the midterm elections, super critical. And then for your listeners, by the way, Canadian pilots, we'd love to have you too. There's no shortage of need for pilots who are willing to fly short distance, long distance. So please go to our website, elevatedaccess.org, and we'd love to have Canadian pilots be part of our network as well.
Fiona, thanks for telling us the story of Elevated Access and what's happening in the U.S. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
That's Fiona, Director of Kindness at Elevated Access.